So yesterday, obviously, there was an attack to a local synagogue in the north of Manchester, in the Prestwich area, which, oddly enough, is actually an area of Manchester I'm quite familiar with, because I have some friends who happen to live in that part of Manchester, and so yeah, it is a very diverse area, and obviously with a lot of the tensions that have been coming about from the streets due to foreign conflicts in the Middle East. There are a lot of people who are supporters of both sides of those conflicts here, and it feels like it's starting to come out in violence, right? It's starting to come out in violence.
I'm confused because I thought diversity is our strength.
I know we've been told this, but I really need you to try and forget everything you think you know.
I'm experiencing a lot of cognitive dissonance right now.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I know. But I do just want to say that, so it seems that two people lost their lives yesterday. We have Adrian Dolby and Melvin Kravitz, and obviously I'm very, very sad for their loss and the loss of their families. It's not something that anyone in Britain should have to experience. Wherever they're from, we shouldn't have people going out with intent to murder their foreign rivals. Right.
I think that's pretty safe to say.
In the United Kingdom, it doesn't need to be said, but I feel like I'll just say it anyway. And then if I go to here, because you wrote up a piece, Josh, for Courage yesterday, basically just going through the actual details of what happened and speculating on why it happened.
Yes, that if you see these eye bags under my eyes, it's because I've worked very hard recently. And I was up late last night writing all the details out.
So let's talk about it a bit, shall we? So, as you write, at 9:31 on Wednesday, Thursday, 2nd of October, police received a call reporting that a vehicle had struck pedestrians outside the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue in Manchester. And according to Greater Manchester Police, the suspect drove into worshippers gathered for Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar, and then exited his vehicle and began stabbing the attendees, including a security guard who was left seriously wounded. And obviously, as I've mentioned, two individuals have lost their lives in this attack and many more seriously wounded.
3 died, including the actual perpetrator himself.
Yeah, and the perpetrator, the murderer, was in himself shot. Which is, of course, good. And then it says that 2 individuals have since been arrested in connection with the incident, and investigations are ongoing to determine whether or not the attacker had accomplices.
I think that's very interesting because the fact that they arrested them so quickly as well, this was announced, I think, that morning of the attack, and within a few hours they'd already arrested 2 people.
Right.
So it seems to suggest that if they can find them that quickly, then there's a pretty strong link between them and the attacker. Otherwise, it might have taken a little bit longer.
Despite the fact that, as we saw, reports coming out that apparently this man was not on the prevent list. Right, he wasn't on the terror watch list.
I haven't actually heard that.
Yeah, he wasn't on the terror watch list.
Concerning.
Which, actually, just to skip ahead then, means, as Dan points out here, in a good point, as Dan always makes, he wasn't known to counter-terrorism police. And so Dan says, so on top of the fact that 1% of all Muslims are on the terror watch list, 300 times more likely than any other group, the 1% is also an undercount, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the people on the list, it's...
I'm not sure if you're going to get onto it, but in my article I mention how the Home Office has been infiltrated by over 700... I'm going to use the word infiltrated. People might say a bit strong, but it is, basically. 700 Muslims who are lobbying to hire more Muslims into the Home Office, as well as redefine what the Prevent programme is looking at. And the reason that the anti-terror police have been looking at the far right more, I've got a good quote from Colonel Richard Kemp, who was formerly a chair of the Cobra meetings, the emergency meeting that Keir Starmer actually went to from Copenhagen yesterday after this attack. I don't think he personally was chairing it, but he was a former chair. And he basically said that there's a political push for this, but the threat between the left and right is not nearly as comparable as that of Islam. Islam's obviously the thing that people should be concerned about. And
Obviously.
He explicitly says it's political. It's about politics and it's not evidence-based. And I think the fact that there's a growing number of Muslims in the Home Office trying to say, actually, no, Muslim terrorists are not bad people. Stop watching them. That's very, very concerning, as well as the fact more Muslims are coming into the country. We had the case of that nephew of a Taliban commander being granted refugee status and bringing 7 of his family along.
Clown world.
Yeah, they're not taking it seriously, are
with
they?
the small boats, it means we have no idea who those people are. Talking about the 1% and the unknown. Then you've got all those Afghans that Ben Wallace was so proud of bringing in. We don't know much about them, do we?
No,
the
not
Afghans,
really.
The secret Afghan smuggling Afghans into the country project, who is some of them, as Dominic Cummings said, some of them are bound to be terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all very, very sinister, and a reason why you can't trust any institutions to be on your side, which is a broader discussion that we'll have in just a minute. Still not working. Do apologise. Tech issues. But then there was another development, and this was only in the past few hours as well, which was from Sir Stephen Watson, Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, and he goes on to say that it's currently believed that the suspect, Jihad al-Shami...
Interesting first name, isn't it?
His name's literally Jihad, right?
I was thinking about, after I read that, like a man called Jihad went on to be a terrorist. I was thinking, well, I'm going to think about my firstborn son's name. Maybe Giga Cromwell 2.0 is a good start.
Giga Cromwell 2.0 firm.
Yes.
Yes.
It's got a good ring to it, hasn't it?
It does.
Tragic event, but spare a thought for the mainstream media who have to try and spin this. Somehow the guy's literally called Jihad, and they're like, how can we spin this to make it seem like
we'll get there.
He once watched Andrew Tate on YouTube, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yes, you're right. People have managed to still try and spin it. Incredibly, he's literally called Mr. Jihad. And it basically means from Syria. But I don't want to
Jihad the Syrian. No, please go on, Nick. But as it goes on here, he was not in possession of a firearm, right? All the murder and violence that he committed was done with his knife.
And his car.
And his car. Sorry. And the only shots fired were from Greater Manchester Police's authorised firearms officers as they worked to prevent the offender from entering the synagogue and causing further harm to our Jewish community. It follows, therefore, that subject to further forensic examination, this injury may sadly have been sustained as a tragic and unforeseen consequence of the urgently required action taken by my officers to bring this vicious attack to an end. And so some of the actual victims were caught in the crossfire as well, and have also sustained bullet wounds. Right? They've also been...
So there's a couple of things to say about this.
Yeah, please.
The first of which is that obviously it's very unfortunate, but in the scenario, as what I've been able to sort of figure out from reading all the details of it, there were lots of people out at the front of the synagogue. It's sort of chaos, and in crowds of people, it's likely to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
someone's lost their life because they were accidentally shot by...
Oh, someone actually died?
Yeah, sorry, I should have read that before. It says that one of the deceased victims would appear to have suffered a wound consistent with a gunshot injury.
That's very unfortunate.
They had to act fast because the guy wore a fake belt, didn't he, to look like he was a suicide bomber.
Yes.
Yeah, they treated it as it was a bomb and only realised after they tried to detonate it that it wasn't actually viable, as they called it.
That was a correct calculation to make.
Yeah, well, they had to shoot him, otherwise he could have killed far more people.
Absolutely.
It's a very unfortunate thing, I think, for the people who had to call the shots there in that situation, because obviously if you don't act quickly and wait for the perfect shot, he could go on to kill more people.
Yeah.
And if you act very quickly, you could shoot someone yourself. And I don't envy the person who took that shot. And obviously I feel very sorry for the people affected.
Me too. And we have here, so let's just talk about who he was then. Who was this guy? So as we've established, his name was Jihad al-Shami, which, as you say, Nick, is just Jihad the Syrian, right? Struggle for Syria.
Yeah, and then people started to speculate, well, maybe that's a fake name, but it's not. He was actually given that name at birth.
Right.
Subhana Mahmood confirms. Imagine calling your kid that. I mean, it's like pretty much setting them up for what they're going to be in life. You know what I mean?
It speaks to the values of the father as well.
Say.
Right.
Though, of course, as the media will tell you, jihad has lots of meanings. Okay, it doesn't just mean this; it means peace. Blah blah blah.
It mostly means fighting on behalf of Islam, though, doesn't it? That's the mainly understood interpretation of what it means. Is you're deliberately fighting, normally to expand the borders for Islam.
But also, what's more, there's this line about, oh, well, jihad has so many different meanings. I'm sure it does. But why should I, as an Englishman, have to educate myself on any single one of them? While it's just simply trying to navigate my way around England?
Yeah. Dave just has one meaning, doesn't it? Just Dave. That's the thing about English names. They don't mean all this other stuff. Someone will probably correct me and say, actually, I think you'll find there's always some origin to every name, obviously.
Well, lots of biblical names have some degree of meaning, don't they? Like, I've got Joshua, for example.
Yes. And mine's Christian, it's Nicholas, which comes from the saint. But, like Dick's son literally means son of Richard at one point. It's a pretty simple system. You know what I mean? What's wrong with that? No, not much confusion there.
So as I say, he wasn't known to the counter-terrorism program. And what's more, so he seems to have been granted citizenship back in 2006 when he was 16 years old.
Yeah, that's insane.
Right? So, Blair era. Right.
Been here 19 years.
Yep. And decided to just go out and commit wanton violence. 3 people, 2 men in their 30s and a woman in her 60s, have been arrested on suspicion of the commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism. And Ralphie Bloom, a member of the synagogue and director of Fed, a Jewish social care charity, told Sky News that he was on his way to the synagogue when he got the call from a friend to warn him about the attack. And he said that the Jewish community has been fearing an attack such as this for 2 years, and that has been facing a tsunami of Jew hate since the war in Gaza started. Now, obviously, I'm not getting drawn into that conversation here and now. But obviously, one thing I would say is I'm actually quite surprised that it's taken this long.
Me too.
For something like this to happen.
It was inevitable that it was going to happen because one of the things I did come to realise, I think it was Cunley Druckper, or Druckper Cunley, I forget which way round, but they pointed out that the 2 areas or 2 neighbourhoods in Manchester, are you going to get to them?
I'll get to it. It's
Don't
okay.
worry.
Sorry, scatting about a bit here. I keep forgetting that doesn't work. Right. So Max Tempers here dug up this Facebook post from the father, right? So, family statement. The news from Manchester regarding the terror attack targeting a Jewish synagogue has been a profound shock to us. The Al-Shami family in the UK and abroad strongly condemns this heinous act, which targeted peaceful, innocent citizens. We fully distance ourselves from this attack and express our deep shock and sorrow over what has happened. Our hearts and thoughts are with the victims and their families, and we pray for their strength and comfort. We kindly request that all media outlets respect the family's privacy during this very difficult time and refrain from using this tragic event in any context that does not reflect the truth. May God have mercy on the innocent victims, and we pray for the swift recovery of the injured. So already we have the family not only distancing themselves from the actions of the son, but also saying, don't speculate on it either. Right?
It's an interesting statement from someone who named his son Jihad.
Right, and this is what it comes to as well, because despite the fact that this was a man who was outside of the terror watch list, right, as you said, Josh, they very quickly found reason to arrest other potential collaborators who have helped him with this. And what's more, we can't forget as well that, his father did call him Jihad.
Yeah, and it's not like, oh, it's a common name. Shabana Mahmood said she'd never heard anyone call that. She's a Muslim. She'd never heard of it before. So it's not like, oh, you don't get it, guys. We all call each other that. It doesn't mean what you think. It's like...
Well, it depends which part of the Islamic world you're from as well, because she's Pakistani, isn't she? And they're Syrian, so maybe it's more common in Syria. I mean, it would explain the state of Syria over the past 10 years or so.
Yes, and so naturally we come to the position where obviously the media, the BBC, the Guardian, all of them, they all just go to work trying to find cover, trying to find, it was always going to be the far right's fault, wasn't it? There are many people in journalism who will try to use this and are using it to divide us. You see, I thought that the murder was the source of the division. I thought it was
Very Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, I wasn't even
thing.
just like on autopilot. Like Norm just lives through us all.
Just on the last thing, apparently jihad is used commonly in Arabic countries in the neutral sense of a struggle for a noble cause as a unisex name given to children. Although I've got that from Wikipedia, so it could be anything. Could be complete nonsense. Yeah. This is disgusting, though, this newsagents thing.
It's absolutely disgusting, but of course it's also entirely predictable. But this is the one that I found particularly wretched, which is them here saying, Jewish people in the Manchester synagogue are not responsible for Israeli foreign policy. True, I agree with that. But likewise, Muslims going to a mosque are not responsible for what some crazy jihadists might do. I wish we could separate these two things. Now, the reason that I really want to just drive into this is because let's not forget that a large reason that we have so many Muslims living in the United Kingdom is because the line is trotted out, well, your state bombed their countries. Right? So, therefore, because the state did something, the general British public, right, has to just live amongst hordes of foreigners.
I'm also suspicious if someone bombed Britain, that the first place I would move to wouldn't be that country.
No.
That's a really weird thing to do.
Yeah, the two things we hear are it's foreign policy, the wars you've had. The other thing is colonialism, it's revenge, essentially. They're the two things you hear all the time. But the problem with this is the percentages mentioned before. I can't remember the exact percentage, but a huge percentage of the people on the terror watch list are Muslim. That's where that falls down, because you can't really say. I mean, of course, the average Muslim, yes, is still not responsible, but it's not like, oh, it's just crazy coincidence or it's just a lone crazy wolf. It's like, well, no, it's a very large percentage.
We've noticed the pattern, haven't we?
Yeah, we've noticed.
Yeah.
And it's also worth mentioning as well that we've seen opinion polling of people's attitudes towards these things, and it's quite an alarming proportion of the community support these sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily even a small minority either. I'm not saying everyone. There are plenty of Muslims that are actually genuinely against this sort of thing, more westernized ones particularly.
As Douglas Murray was pointing out, you don't see massive condemnation of it from the peaceful people. You don't see that a lot, them coming out and doing that. Maybe they're scared to do it. I don't know, but you don't see that very much.
Well,
It's very interesting, isn't it?
Very often the response is just, look, this guy's gone out and committed an act of terror. Now please consider how we're most affected by all of this. Right? That's what it always comes back to, every single time. But really, here as well, look, this entire point, it's like, well, Jewish people in the Manchester synagogue are not responsible for Israeli foreign policy. Look, I agree. For one thing, they're on an entirely separate continent, right? They're, unless they're Israeli dual nationalists, right, who brought in Netanyahu's government, right, they have no hand in what's currently going on now in Israel and Palestine. But the fact of the matter is that, as you were getting to, Josh, and as Druckper points out here, well, these boroughs of Manchester, you have 56% Jewish and then 69% in one of the neighbouring boroughs. And so, regardless of whether or not someone should be persecuted and held account for what their state is doing with or without their consent, when you have all of these people out there with these ethno-racial wars going on, that is going to spill over into other neighbourhoods.
It's also worth pointing out, can I pinch the mouse quickly, that on this second picture here, the actual synagogue was on this road here, and then that Muslim district is here.
Right.
So it's easy walking distance. They're rubbing up right against each other there. And it is, as he points out, a microcosm of the greater Israel-Palestine conflict, because they're right next to each other, aren't they? They're competing for resources, fundamentally.
What an insane thing to bring into your country. And did you see Sky News report where she went and said, oh, it's a tolerant area. Everyone here has told me it's normally very tolerant, multicultural area. It's like, listen to yourself. Like,
just don't believe you.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
Right.
And you have to repeat the mantras of the state religion, which trumps everything else, right? These are two warring religions, but actually the real religion is diversity is our strength, whatever you call that religion that we're all living under. So you have to go and you have to utter the mantras at the scene. I mean, how sick and deranged is that? But that's the reality.
There's also this weird thing where Keir Starmer was talking about those who sow division, but diversity is a form of division, right? Otherwise, it's not diversity in the first place. And so with diversity comes division. So
Yeah.
it's
Spent
weird.
80 years importing division.
You sound to me just like an enemy of national renewal.
He is.
It's like Starmer's in the room with us now.
And then obviously this happened to coincide with the Palestine protests that was going on down in London at the time. And as they often do, that got quite violent. I believe 40 people were arrested from this protest, bearing in mind that, they just got 500,000 to 1 million out for Tommy, and that ended up being 9 arrested, right? So the conduct is not exactly on show here from the pro-Palestinian lot. But the thing is as well, right, it's remarkable how quick and how different the reaction has been from the British state, because obviously this has taken place in a synagogue, and because Jews are a minority, every part of the state has just mobilized to get to the bottom of this as quickly as possible. There was no secrecy about the name of the attacker. We've not been left for days and days speculating in it all.
We've not had Oasis songs play.
We've not had Don't Look Back in Anger, right? We've not had that. We've had, actually, your anger is totally justified, and we're going to do something about it. But this is another thing as well from Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, who says, we don't want our Jewish community to have to live a smaller Jewish life because of the fear of anti-Semitism. Shabana, all the story of Britain for these past 80 years has been the story of us having to live a smaller and smaller life, right? The bollards around London, just all of these things, just that we didn't have to live with, didn't want, right? They've just been put in place and just left as permanent fixtures, right?
The only way the British people could be protected from the current state as it is if we, and in the next census, like dishonestly marked ourselves as Jewish, just so all of a sudden, like, oh wow, we've got a big population, we need to start caring about them.
Yeah.
We're so abused in this country, not to make it all about us, but it's very frustrating to see such a different reaction. Obviously, taking it seriously and doing something about it should be the default action.
Yes.
I'm not criticising them for that.
No.
But what I'm saying is the absence of that when it's targeting native British people is very, very aggravating.
Yeah.
To put it lightly.
There was a tweet, I wonder how most Brits feel when they hear Jews say they no longer feel safe in the UK. And it's like, yeah, fair enough, but we're not safe either. But on top of that, we get sent to prison for complaining about it. And you hear these comments like, what happens to the Jews first and so on. It's like, yeah, this is disgusting what happens. And I understand the state is quasi against you because they sort of tacitly support Palestine in that conflict and all that kind of thing. You can debate that. But there seems to be basically the prevailing ideology is naturally going to side with Palestine more. So I can see, and they've been able to do all these protests on the streets and get away with very intimidating stuff. So I do understand all that. But it's a different level when it comes to whatever you call the non-Jewish, native, the Gentile, however you want to define us. Then it's just out-and-out hatred from the state and go to prison. And you can't even report on thousands of rapes because you'll be seen as racist. Like, let's cover it up. So it's a whole other level of absolute, no one will even give lip service to the idea of, we've got to sort this. It will be shut up immediately. I mean, Starmer calling everyone far right in the wake of Southport. It was immediate. There was nothing about the victims. There was nothing about, it was just immediately, you're still scum. So
and what's more, it doesn't matter why you're rioting.
Right.
It doesn't matter how you feel.
Yeah. So I don't think this sort of regime's sense, I don't think they're really on the side of Jewish people, but they're more than they are with the sort of native Brit, whatever you want to call us, who is absolutely hated. Yeah. It's a different level.
And so we're at a position now where, when we think about what's been going on here and all of these terror attacks, and of course they're all terrible, but when 7/7 happened, that should have been the first and last, right? It should have been the last. And yet they just keep going on. And there's a reason why I've not just included loads of statements from like Keir Starmer and all of the other politicians in this. It's because you know what they're going to say, right? It's just such a copy and paste.
It's just an identikit response.
You see Tim Farron's one, former leader of the Lib Dems, one of the sort of semi-reasonable ones, what used to be. He says, after the outrage in Manchester, there are people on the streets tonight chanting for the annihilation of the world's only Jewish state. Racism is a feature of the far right, but sadly not of the far right alone. Shameful. So he said more than most politicians will say, but he still threw in the far right for completely no reason. They really can't, their worldview, as we know, can't handle this at all.
No.
And it's absolutely stretched to breaking point now. The news agents is about as far as you can stretch it, the insanity and the gaslighting.
Yeah.
But it's not going to go much further.
But it's evil, and it's costing lives.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. Rupert, on the other hand, is much more on the money, as usual, where he says, we must stop importing those who hate Britain and wish to do us harm. We must start deporting those foreign nationals who hate Britain and wish to do us harm. If that means revoking citizenship from dual nationals on an industrial scale, then that is what must happen. We must stop tolerating the intolerable. This has gone on for too long. With too much harm, death and suffering inflicted along the way. Some will come from France on the dinghy, others will come into Heathrow or Gatwick. Regardless of the route of entry, if a foreign dual national holds such a visceral hatred of Britain and our people, then they should be forcefully removed. The number is irrelevant. I fear that it may be far larger than even I expect. Terrible, avoidable atrocities will continue to happen until politicians grasp this nettle. No more thoughts, no more prayers, action.
Good statement from Rupert there, as always.
Yeah, as always.
It's so depressing how he's such an outlier in Parliament. He's the only one. I remember when he sort of first started saying stuff like, oh, there's a guy that's sort of actually representing me. Then it was immediately like, get out of reform. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a freak thing that he's even in Parliament, the one normal person saying the obvious, while they try and gaslight us into oblivion.
Well, when they're saying, the far right is stoking up revision, it's like, no, we are trying to find solutions to the division, right? We're trying to deport the many, many Britain-hating people who are here.
Deportation is the most civil way of dealing with this problem.
It is.
And so if they're refusing to allow us to deport the problem, then what they're doing is building up pressure and making a violent response more likely. That's all that's going to happen. If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.